Pete Carroll really has a good thing going in Seattle right now. The Seahawks were 11-5 last year. They came within 30 seconds of advancing to the NFC Championship game. And between what they've got coming back and what they've already done this offseason, it looks like they're going to be serious contenders in 2013 and beyond. Let's start with the defense. When you talk about this team, you've got to start with the defense. They were number one in the NFL last year in points per game allowed, fourth in yards per game allowed. They were dominant on the defensive side of the ball, and they have nearly all of their key contributors back in 2013. Now, linebacker Leroy Hill and cornerback Marcus Trufant are unrestricted free agents, but nearly everybody else is back, and they've already made a couple of nice additions in defensive ends, Cliff Avril and Michael Bennett. Both these guys were free agents. Avril comes from the Detroit Lions, Bennett from the Tampa Bay Bucks. These guys are both proven pass rushers, and that's especially important when you consider that defensive end Chris Clemons, who's one of Seattle's best pass rushers last year, tore his ACL in their win over Washington in the wild card round of the playoffs in January, and Clemons might not be fully healthy for the 2013 season. So they needed to add at that position, but I don't think anybody thought they were going to sign two guys of the quality of Avril and Bennett. So between those two guys and Bruce Irvin, who was a rookie last year, really a pass rush specialist, the Seahawks pass rush should have some punch in 2013. Now, they did lose their defensive coordinator. Gus Bradley went to take the head coaching job with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but we know this is Pete Carroll's defense. Carroll went in the family in hiring Bradley's replacement, hiring Dan Quinn, who had previously worked in Seattle as defensive line coach. He'd been the defensive coordinator with the Florida Gators the last couple of years, so Quinn will be back in Seattle now as defensive coordinator. But again, this is Carroll's defense. He oversees the defense. They've been playing good defense ever since Pete Carroll arrived in Seattle. But what they haven't done is played good offense, at least not until last season. It wasn't until they found an offense, more specifically found a quarterback, that Seattle was able to make the jump from competitive to legitimate contender, and that quarterback's name is Russell Wilson. Seahawks drafted Wilson in the third round of last year's draft, and he was a revelation as a rookie, passing for over 3,100 yards, 26 touchdowns. That ties an NFL record for passing touchdowns by a rookie, tied Peyton Manning. Not bad company there. But Wilson really got better as the season went along, really as they trusted him more. Seattle's offense got off to a slow start the first 5 games of the season. They were very conservative. But once they opened up the offense a little bit, they allowed Wilson to throw the ball downfield a little more. They incorporated the read option more into the running game. They really took off, and by the end of the year, they're one of the better offenses in the NFL. Now, we talked about Wilson, but you can't talk about this offense without talking about Marshawn Lynch, the single most underrated running back in the NFL. One of the 2 or 3 best running backs in the NFL. Rushed for 1,590 yards and 11 touchdowns last year. Was named to the Pro Bowl. Now, he does but run behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. That certainly helps, no doubt about it. And the Seahawks offense will have a new weapon this next season. That's because they traded for Minnesota wide receiver Percy Harvin. They had to give up some draft picks, but Harvin is a proven commodity. With the ball in his hands, Percy Harvin is as good as any player in the NFL. Let me repeat that. There is nobody better in the NFL with the ball in his hands than Percy Harvin. Don't take my word for it. Listen to Adrian Peterson, who recently, after Harvin was shipped off to Seattle, said Harvin was the best player he's ever seen. There's just no reason for Adrian Peterson to say that about a guy who is no longer on his team. But if you've seen Percy Harvin since he's been in the league, you know what Peterson is talking about. This guy is electric with the ball in his hands, can make a difference both at the wide receiver position and as a kick returner. That's probably why Seattle parted ways with Leon Washington, the veteran kick returner, who is now a member of the New England Patriots. But with Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Percy Harvin, a great offensive line, this Seattle offense looks loaded now. We know the defense. We know they're dominant. They finished first in the league, as we said, in points per game allowed last year, and they added a couple of good defensive linemen. So the sky's the limit for this Seahawks team. As we sit here in March, we know a lot could change, but as we sit here in March, the Seattle Seahawks do not appear to have a weakness. We'll see if that translates to winning football come September.